Hello everyone, and welcome back to my ongoing series of SolidWorks tutorials. Now, in the previous video I showed you a sneak peek of this little fellow right here, which is a continuation of what we did in that video, which was sweeps. And in this particular case, and generally in the real world, your bends are not always going to be perfectly 90 degrees away from each other. You're going to have to bend up at jaunty little angles such as this. So let me show you how to do this. Now this is a big hint right here. I had to create another plane. That's the subject of this video, making reference geometry. Let's go ahead and make a new part, and I'll show you what we did here. First thing, I'm going to change to millimeters, grams, second. It's not super important that this be in millimeters, but I like to give attention to both systems of measurement so no one feels left out. I'm going to come up here to the Sketch tab, open up a sketch, and why not, I'll just start on the top plane. Like I did with my second part in the last video, I'm going to do half of this sketch this way from the origin and the other half the other direction from origin. And that's because the two planes are going to basically meet there, and I'll be able to sweep from either direction. If you didn't see that video, maybe go back and check that out. Let's see, I'm going to bring this out maybe 35 millimeters and down about the same. Escape to get out of my line tool. I'll smart dimension everything from the origin point. Type in 35. Same thing for here. And we'll throw in a bend radius. Yeah, 10 millimeters works. And then entities to fillet, I can just hit that corner point and it will show me my fillet preview, and then throw it on in there. At this point we are done with that sketch, so I'm going to exit the sketch up here in the top left. I'm going to click out in the field so that sketch is no longer highlighted. And at this point, in order to do my second sketch, which will be a line coming off this direction and then bending up, but also angling back at 45 degrees, I need to create a reference plane. And you'll find these commands in the Features tab up here. This is the standard interface, by the way. I believe you can do reference geometry in the simplified interface, but at this point I'm doing everything in the standard interface. If you are still in simplified interface, you can come up to this caret next to SolidWorks, go to View, come down to Workspace, and uncheck Simplified Interface, and your user interface should look exactly like mine. Alright, I'm in my Features tab. I'm going to come over here to Reference Geometry, and there's a drop down here, and I can choose Plane. It's going to open up a dialog box over here on the left, and it's asking for reference surfaces. It doesn't have to be a plane. In fact, my very first reference surface is going to be this line. It will bring up different types of relationships to that line, and I want it to be coincident, which is what it snapped to. Now my second reference surface, I can open up my tree by going to this icon up here, my part icon. That is my my feature tree, and I can go around to all of the planes here. I can actually have it at an angle to either the front or the top to make this part. So I'll choose the top plane, and I can come here to my angle, and right here I can specify an angle. Unfortunately, it's defaulting to what I put in last, which was for my sample part. That's great for when you're actually working with SolidWorks, not so great when you're trying to teach someone. So you can type in any angle. If you wanted that to be 75 degrees, it would put that at an angle of 75 degrees to your first plane. which is why I had to have this. I couldn't have it at 45 because then it would be angled the wrong direction, as you can see from the leg on my sketch there. So basically it's an angle of 45 degrees from this surface here, this plane, to that one. And that's why if I wanted 45 degrees back the other direction, I would need to have it at 135. So that's looking good. It shows fully defined up here. We actually don't need a third reference, so I'm going to click that. And now I have my plane drawn. I can come up to Sketch, start a new sketch, and I'm already sketching on that plane. It defaulted to the last thing that you made. And starting at my origin point, I'm going to come out here 35-ish millimeters, and then I'm going to put this at a jaunty little angle as well. I'm going to put that about right there. Escape to get out of the line tool, and let's go ahead and smart dimension this stuff. So from the origin to the corner point, make that 35 millimeters, and then from the origin to this point, we'll make that 25 millimeters. And then we've got to define this angle. So I click the two lines, click out there, and we'll make that 120 degrees. And there we go. Everything's fully defined. I'll exit my sketch and click out here to unhighlight my sketch. Now I can come up to my sketch tab and we can draw our profile. I'm going to come to my design tree, and I'm going to choose the right plane because that will let me put my profile on it so that it will sweep through that. And I'm going to put it right here at the origin point. Tell you what, let's try out the polygon tool here. We'll make this a hexagonal part. So we will put our circle right there, and I'll snap it to that line there. We should be able to smart dimension across flats here, and we'll make that 5 millimeter hex. I think it wants a it wants a measurement to the points there so that it knows basically how this is oriented. Okay, so now I should be able to go to, well, exit sketch, should be able to go to features, swept boss base. It wants that profile that we just drew, and I'm going to choose that line right there and click confirm. Now that's our first line. The next one, I'll come back to sketch. This time I will choose this face. I will convert entities, and that's basically just converting that face into the sketch for this one. So now we have a fresh sketch without having to redraw it and redefine it. And I can go back to features, swept boss base. It's choosing that sketch for me, and then I just choose this line right here. Okay, and what I didn't do is put a fillet on that sketch, which I'm just realizing now, but I'm guessing that some of you probably realized that when I didn't do it. But I can go ahead and fix this. If I go to the arrow right there, it shows me the sketches that are associated with this particular sweep, and I should be able to edit any of them. I can come up here to edit sketch, and it shows you a profile, or a preview of the profile right there. I'm going to click fillet right there. It's already at 10 millimeters, and I'll go ahead and click that point, And now when I exit the sketch, there we go. Changed everything exactly as it should be. So now we have our finished part there, and you can see why we needed reference geometry for this particular thing. Otherwise there would be no way to get this bend at an angle to this one down here. This certainly isn't the only reason you would ever use reference geometry though. So let me show you another one. For this part, I'm bringing back all the hits. I've got an extrusion, I've got reference geometry. From that plane that I created, I have an extrude cut right through there, and then just for giggles I threw in a circular pattern, so we actually have that same reference geometry, or that same extruded cut, sent all through this part. And this would be a really interesting one to machine, probably more interesting for Justin and quality control, but that's not my problem. Anyway, let me show you how to fix this up. We're going to go to New Part. We're going to go to Sketch. I'll choose the top plane, why not? For this I'm going to choose a center rectangle, and that way the origin is right in the middle of my part. And yeah, something right around there. We'll smart dimension. This will be 6 inches square. Here we are. And then we'll extrude this out. I did the previous one at a mid plane. I don't really think it matters too much, but we'll make it an inch thick. Mid plane just means that it's going to be coming up both directions from the plane that the sketch is on. And there we are. So the next bit, we're going to make our reference geometry. I'm going to come up here and click Reference Geometry and Plane. It asks for your first reference, and I'm going to choose this top face of the part. It makes a lot of assumptions based on your inputs. So it assumes since I clicked that face, the most likely thing is that I would need my reference geometry to be offset from the face of the part, which is this distance here. And you could type in anything there if you wanted to. That is not actually what we want. You could also choose parallel to that, which it already is, perpendicular, coincident, an angle, which we'll be getting to. In this particular case, I want to have a mid-plane constraint here. And then my second reference, I'm going to choose one of the planes of my part. I'm going to do the right plane since it's, I think this should work, yes. So I click that, and well, it already snapped to where I wanted it, which is probably because I used it for the sample part. But it's a mid-plane constraint at 45 degrees. So that's everything I need. I have a fully defined sketch. It gives you some really angry messages if it's not something that's solvable. So trust me, you will know if you don't get it right. So now I can go to my sketch. It's going to snap to that plane, I believe. Yep. And now I can draw myself a circle, which will stick it right in there someplace. We'll do our smart dimension from the origin point, and we'll make that 1 inch out. We'll make that 0 so it's centered, and then we've got to give it a diameter, and I believe I did 3/8 of an inch, 0.375. By the way, if you don't know the decimal equivalent, you can always put in 3/8 and it will do the math for you. It's basically saying 3 divided by 8. So I can come in here to Features, Extrude Cut. It will show me a preview, and it's through all. You can do all the normal things that you'd be able to do. If you needed it to be a blind hole, you could do that. In this case though, I do want through all, so I'm going to click that, and now we have one of our holes. So the next thing we're going to do is come up here to linear pattern. I'll use my drop down and choose circular pattern. It's asking for features and faces. So if you click somewhere in there on that cut extrude, you can click that, and that's the feature that it's going to send around. And then we have the direction. We can choose this top face, and it will put in all of our holes just like that. Gives you a little preview, and if you wanted to, you could change that up to 5 or 7, or let's see if 8 will fit. 8 will fit. And then we click that, and now we have even more holes for Justin in quality control to bother himself with. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you have any questions about this or any other SolidWorks or machining topics, let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.